She's zooming, so she wanted us to click when you're ready then. And Teresa will be on Zoom.
And Bill will be a little late.
Okay.
She's waiting for
Teresa
it.
can only say that
Okay. Yeah, so we'll have to.
It'll be three of us ready.
Yeah, both of us. No, please. Oh, that's it. Both of us.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we could maybe,
You or I could look at the.
we could, depending on when we on this one, we could start real quick and get some stuff done.
Yeah.
Alright, we are recording. Christine, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine, and I can see almost everybody.
Great. Let's see who else we got here. Attendees. Teresa, I'm gonna promote you to panelist.
Recording in progress.
Carolyn, I'll promote you just in case you want to share something.
Yeah, and later, when you guys go, sorry, when you guys are, when the first part's done, I'll need to log into the second.
Christine, if you don't mind keeping an eye on those participants, Bill might join in, and Meredith was a slim possibility. You just let me know.
Okay, I'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you, I'll promote them. All right, let's do a quick roll call to open the meeting since we got a couple people on Zoom.
Peter Michelson, present.
John Messina, present.
Carolyn Casey here.
Bob Meany here?
Tony Papantonis here.
Robert Worth here.
Michelle Kirkby here.
Mike Weber here. Teresa?
Teresa James here.
That was very clear. All right. The 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes we had to approve. October 9th, November 6th, December 11th, and January 8th. Comments for discussion, problems, questions? Well, that's good. They were perfect.
Close enough.
Christine, do you guys use AI to create meeting minutes yet? No. I know Zoom has like, not Zoom,
Teams.
Teams has the Copilot.
Yes, we are not there yet. I know that Jeff has piloted some of his committees doing it, and we are right behind them.
Just curious. All right, why don't we do one at a time? I'll hear a motion for October 9th meeting minutes approval.
So moved?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Pete, you want to go around again?
October 9, yes.
October 9, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes, for October 9th.
Bob Meany, yes, the ninth?
Tony Papantonis, yes.
Robert Worth, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Mike Weber, yes. Teresa?
Teresa James, yes.
November 6th.
So moved?
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Pete, we're going to start with you again.
Yeah, I found a mistake, but I can't remember which one it was.
Oh,
But I think it wasn't this one, so yes.
John Messina, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Bob Meany, yes?
Tony Papantonis, yes.
Robert Worth, yes.
Michelle Kirkby.
Mike Weber, yes.
Teresa James, yes.
Pete, I'll give you a second if you want to discuss that mistake.
It's not, it was just a word, inclination, I should forget it, just approve it.
All right, so overall, the general theme of they're not word for word.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really what we're looking for is like, I didn't say that.
Content.
Yeah, but like, it's not what I meant, or
Yeah.
whatever, whatever it may be,
Okay.
like, something
So
material.
December 11, yes.
Let's go for a motion.
So moved?
Second.
All right, thanks, John.
December 11, yes.
December 11, John Messina, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Bob Meany, yes?
Tony Papantonis, yes.
Robert Worth, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Mike Weber, yes.
Teresa James, yes.
Leo, welcome.
Abstain.
Do I hear a motion for the January 8th meeting minutes to be approved?
You do?
Okay. John?
Second.
Thank you.
Peter Michelson, yes, on January 8th.
John Pacini, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Bob Meany, yes?
Tony Papantonis, yes.
Robert Worth, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Mike Weber, yes.
Teresa James, yes.
And Leo, do you want to vote on this one?
Leo Brown, yes.
All right. Okay, that's that. I wanted you guys everyone get a chance to look at the agenda. The enrollment discussion is kind of where I thought we might want to start tonight. You'll have to apologize because something's up with my computer. I can't type anything, so I can't search. I had both
I forgot all that.
both NASDAQ and as well as the Future Think reports. So where I'm aiming to kind of go with the enrollment discussion generally is, did we email those out? I think Jeff might have emailed those out during the last meeting. Basically what I'm looking for is some sort of general consensus. We don't have to vote on it now, but I think we should just have a 5-minute discussion on how big should the school be. Yeah. So Future Think, Carolyn, do you actually have it so you can share it?
The Future Think,
The Future Think report?
I can find on the town website in a minute, yes. It's gonna take me a little bit.
All right, well, while you're looking for it, I'll give you a general synopsis of it. And so it's 27 pages. You know, a lot of that was background. I think there's probably 3 main pages that I kind of wanted to talk about, and that was the predicted enrollment, and I think the NASDAQ numbers kind of mirror what we're looking at here. And they were a low, I think she labeled them low.
Got the Future Think report, is that the one you wanna look at?
Yeah, do you mind bringing that up and going to page, it's towards the end. And that was kind of interesting, wasn't it? I believe it was. All right, so they had low, moderate, and high. So maybe page,
I got 30.
yeah, 23 out of 30. We can start there.
I was on 30, let me go back.
22.
Yeah, 23 for me is a map, so I don't. It's projected enrollment low.
Yeah, maybe let's look at the moderate one and then we'll look at the high one together. I just want to kind of get a general consensus of what we're thinking because if everyone remembers the last go around, this was, you know, basically we're trying to build a school for how many was it, Jeff? 500? 575. So I kind of want, if we have a consensus, again, we're not looking for a vote on what the number should be, but I think we should generally, go ahead, Teresa, if you have something to say.
Yeah, actually, before we look at those numbers, I'd just like to hear from, you know, we have Christine here, we have Jeff here, as well as we've got representatives of our school committee here. You know, since we did this engagement, you know, before looking at the numbers, is there anything in kind of planning or other initiatives or anything that we should be aware of that might be impacting what the analysis was, or does all of those governing bodies kind of feel, you know, stay the course? There's nothing new that wasn't not considered during that time.
That's a good question.
I don't think we have anything.
So the school committee.
Yeah, I don't think that we have anything new to add to this build, you know, to this potential project. I don't think anything's changed.
Teresa, the only thing I would add is that in the last project, we wanted to make sure we had space for math, at least one classroom for math, because, you know, obviously they work with our kids after school, and that was important, and that was part of what some of the extra classrooms are gonna be used for last time, so making sure that at least we have one space or one classroom that they would be able to use. I know it's kinda tricky because I'm not sure MSBA would reimburse that, but, I think it's something that we really wanna consider, and we absolutely considered it and had space for last time.
Yeah, I would say it was designed for map use in the sense of it would be used during the day, but then it would have, the ability to flip over to map usage as well as some storage. I think one of the biggest things for map is storage for their gear, when they're not in session. So I think that was actually, when I recall, I remember a nice area for them to utilize that as we were making sure that the portable classrooms were, no longer there.
Right.
Because of, they're not the best looking, and if we were to
Right.
go through the process, we would still have these things.
And given
there,
the
so-
fact there's no more FAST Center for them to use, that would be something, obviously a strong consideration to make sure that space and storage is safe.
I'm also,
Yeah, great. I appreciate those perspectives.
Bob should speak to this more than I, but his story from last time, how they had an enrollment estimate, they came in right on target, and 3 years later, they're at the brim because of programmatic changes and other things. Leads me to think we should lean towards the larger size rather than moderate to low.
Yeah, I think 575 is probably way more than generous, right? I mean, I don't. What's the current enrollment of?
It's under 400 right now. 385 or something.
385, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I mean personally, like, based on my experience, I'm an advocate for going a little bit higher, but I think the 575 was like probably a little too far. I think most people would agree. My point really was it's not always just about the number of students, right? Because every student's a little different, and programs change over time. So that's a consideration. But I think you can allow for that within like a reasonable range without having to exceed a reasonable number.
Yeah, I would also say in our education plan, we accounted for programs that we currently have that are additional, and certainly ones that we look at in the future for special education settings. So I think that was definitely included in the last one with the space. We'll do that again this time.
Mike, I had to
Yeah.
leave the webinar and come back in order to get,
Oh.
to let Zoom, use my computer. I have kind of a newish computer, and I guess I had to set it up again. So can you just,
I can do that for
put me back in?
You're super tech savvy. Just kidding. Well, I don't see you as an attendee.
Okay, now, it should be trying to let me in.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. You just popped up.
I just promoted you.
Thank you. It wouldn't let me share, won't see if it was sharing.
Yeah, so we got, one thought process is to like err on the side of more. I know last time we talked about, and this is obviously a future discussion, but generally the design of the school was such that if there was an addition that was being needed, there was an easy spot to put it, right? So, again, that's kind of future. We should definitely have that in our brains, like some massive housing development gets built in Medfield that we're unaware of now, but in 15 years it happens, and the population grows by 2,000 people, and like who knows, like right? You need to be somewhat prepared for that, whether, or at least just the what ifs, right? That's worst case scenario. But that said, there's a fix to it that you've thought of. I deal with a lot of risk generally. I like to think about worst case scenarios a lot of times, and that would be what I would say would be kind of worst case. But again, that's more of a design thing when we talk about just enrollment itself, because what we do have to do in Module 1, if you remember, is the, after 90 days after the April 1 or 11th starts, basically it's a questionnaire on enrollment, and we need to fill that out, and I think we should at least be somewhat aligned, and before that actually gets submitted, we can have more discussions on it, but I kind of want to start discussion today. All right, perfect, Carol. So you've got the enrollment projection. Let's look at two things. Let's look at So generally, do people agree with Pete? Like, we're not gonna design the smallest school we possibly can. Is that fair to say? So if we look at lower enrollment projections, can we generally agree that that's probably not the best, it's probably not the best use of, like, a school?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the smart way to look at it. So Carolyn, go down a little bit, and they group it by grade, so we have 4 or 5 is really what I wanna look at.
Yeah, 4,
The
5.
31-32 year, well, this is the moderate one.
You wanna look at the
Yeah,
high and moderate?
Nope, this is good, let's just keep it right here. This is moderate, we'll start at moderate. So 4, 5, I'm just looking at worst case again. The largest year projection wise for 4, 5, if you go across all the scales, is the 31-32 year. That's the largest number also in the low projection as well as the high projection. So this number right here, 454, is kind of moderate, worst case over the next 10 years, right? If you go to, now if you scroll down 1 page, 2 pages, sorry, thank you. Now this is that's the low, is the high right now?
Down.
Down, what, keep
You want
going?
the high now?
Yeah, we're gonna
That's
ignore
right
the
here.
low for a second. Okay, perfect. The same number here
491.
is 504. So generally speaking, if we look out 10 years, we know in the NASDAQ,
I have it right in front of me.
you do, can you read those numbers?
So it's 448 for 31-32.
448.
Yeah.
That's the moderate, or that's?
That's their.
They give you a number as opposed to a range. So 448 kind of matches our moderate projection that Future Think did, right? And then 504 is a high projection, okay? So when we think about it, and if you think about that, that's 2 like really large classes. Like there's 250 children per grade, and right now we're at 190 or so each, right? So you're talking about an increase of like over 33% per grade, which is not saying unreasonable. It's just seems like a lot in 6, 8 years. But regardless, I'm personally of the opinion that if we're targeting a school size, the 500-ish number, it makes probably the most sense to me. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Now you can tell me 510, you can tell me 490, you can tell me 520. What are general consensus? Like I said.
Well, I think when you talk about numbers like this, I think the thing to consider is with a school size of 500, how many classrooms are you looking at? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're going to be adding and subtracting, right?
100%.
Like you're adding and subtracting a full classroom, whether you have 10 extra kids or 10 more kids when you're building the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'd want to be thinking about how many classrooms, what that looks like, and like, is there a threshold number of adding classrooms and taking classrooms away, because that's again going to affect the cost.
100%. It's a really good way to look at it. I'm glad you brought that up. So if we look at a classroom, I'm going to go with my gut here, Steve, but it's 22 children per classroom?
Yeah,
Roughly
anywhere
of
from
the size?
21 to 23, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to do a quick math. My calculator, 500 students divided by 22 students per classroom.
Wouldn't hurt to get that down below 20. Just saying.
Yeah. Exactly. We can hire more teachers, sure. This is a budget.
Rob, I mean,
That's a school
am I
committee
wrong?
issue. So I,
Yeah,
Some grade levels.
That's 21, 22 is good, but 20.
Yeah, but we build to 21, we'll get 23.
Yeah.
well, let's just do what Michelle said though, because I think that's more of an educational. That's more of not my expertise for sure, but I mean I'd say put 10 kids per classroom if we could. You know what I mean? But all right, so if we just did 500 students divided by 22 students per classroom, right? That's 22.7 is classrooms. So really, that, you round up, that's 23 classrooms, right? And if you did that by 22 students, that's 506 is the number. So in my brain, the way I think 23 or 24 classrooms, you know, around that number probably makes the most sense for us.
Well, and if you had a year and you went from 22 to 23 kids per class, or even 24 kids per class, since we have all the grades together, that's the nice piece about spreading the kids, right? You can do 2 kids, I mean, could be a high year, but it's not like 30 kids per class, it's not outrageous
Yeah.
in terms of numbers, for 4th and 5th graders, and that's what we're talking, we have to be sure people understand that, because you'd be talking about it differently if it was K and 1. Right, that's 4th and 5th.
But let me ask you something, because I'm not used to this. Does, but based on the number of students, I'm assuming it impacts size of like the cafeteria, library, those ancillary rooms? So it's not just classroom.
Number of bathrooms.
They probably say, okay, 500 students,
Hey, Bill.
cafeteria is gonna be X amount of square.
It's a
Library's
great
gonna be
point.
X amount.
Yeah, I mean, do we need more parking spaces? You know,
Computer labs, who knows?
Yep.
So I think it translates across the board.
All right.
But I still agree, in principle, with your thought process. If you're gonna go through all this, planning, design, construction, you might as well, build it as big as you can.
Yeah, without being so big
Yeah,
that
without being crazy.
it costs an extra, 15%, call it, that. So Bill, just to fill you in a little bit, we're just talking, were you listening there?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you might have signed off there. Generally, the other thing, Tony, to go, so I'm not gonna fill you in because you already got it. The other thing is, I don't know how this works, but an architect would figure it out, like, if it's 23 classrooms, if it's 2 stories, is it easier to do 24? Because then you have an even number and wings look the same up and down, you know what I mean? So, again, that's kind of in the future, but
Were we 28 last time?
I believe it was 28 last time, yeah.
I would also say that we're just talking about classrooms too, we're not talking about educational spaces, special education spaces.
That's right.
Those kinds of things, so it'll be more.
My question was like, if you guys have a max capacity of whatever, and the max capacity is 504, and you get an enrollment of 506, how does that work? Does the school?
One classroom has more kids.
Okay, but there's no max that you can't go over? Or,
Jam them in.
Yeah, no, that's what, right, if that was a consideration, if there was a magic number that if you went over.
I mean,
you
that's
were
what it was
gonna-
like around here when there were 3,000 kids in the district, right? I mean, you remember that, it was
Oh, yeah.
really high class size, same footprints in all the schools, right? Of course, we have more programs now than they had there, just by the nature of what we do in education now. And it was just higher class size.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a couple, and it was interesting, because it was some really low years, and then boom, some super high years. It did that peak thing, and then, So, yeah, those kids had more friends than they thought.
All right, so I think when we develop a response in the coming months for MSBA on this, we have 2 really good sources. We spent some money to really put some thought behind this. Again, they wanted us to err on the side of super caution and design for 575 last time, and they never want to see a school get overcrowded or need an addition after a couple of years, right? Because they don't want you to come back for more money, which totally makes sense to me too. So my gut tells me they're still going to push for a larger number than maybe we want to, but that says we have some real good data, and we're thinking, hey, even if we conceded to 24 classrooms, that's 525 students. You know what I mean? That it's still less money in square footage than the 575. But I think we're in consensus that it's about, the highest number over the next 10 years.
And from the perspective of residents, we had a couple of empty classrooms, and I say empty, but they really weren't empty. But they were empty for, they didn't have a class in them for a couple of years, but they were well used. It wasn't like we were heating and air conditioning empty space. So my point is, for residents who may feel like 24 is too many. If you have a couple of classrooms that aren't being fully utilized those years, like you find uses for them. Like you find good uses for them. Everybody wants to be in the new building too. Like everybody
just earned himself a spot on the communications subcommittee.
everybody wants it's not like you have empty space in the building. That would be nice, but it's not how it happens. And then eventually, when you do have the bubble come through, those classes get filled up, right? But for residents who are feeling like maybe 24 is too generous, if that comes up in conversation, I would say that like schools that have extra classrooms always utilize them for different reasons.
Yeah.
So.
What would be more embarrassing is having to put a portable classroom on the new building
Yes.
because we built it too small, which is not uncommon, I'm allowed to say.
Yeah, that'd be terrible, right? I certainly want, and again, I wish this thing could do an accurate projection for 50 years, because this building should last 50 years, in my mind, right? So, but we don't have that data, and, it kind of is what it is, right? Go with what you know, plan for worst case. All right, any more thoughts on enrollment before we kind of move on? I just wanted to kind of.
Mike, I would just add that school committee policy for recommended class size is, for grades 2 to 4 is 23, and grade 5 is 24. It's not the required class, it's just the recommended class size in the school committee policy.
Okay, thank you.
If that just adjusts anything either way.
So, I would just suggest though too, that come June, that you guys look at the kindergarten enrollment at that point in time too, and just see if your
Sure.
original, make sure that that's on the agenda for June, so that you can reevaluate it and see where we are, because even with the future thing, low projection, that's overstated than where we are now. And I think it's gonna be really telling to see what the kindergarten enrollment is come June for the fall.
Yeah, I mean, this is saying it's gonna be 458, right? And then, I don't know, can you scroll up?
The low one is 392.
Yeah, I don't think we ever wanna base anything off the low, just
Yeah.
personally. Go to the moderate, think it's up a little bit.
But what I'm saying is that even with the low one is still higher than what we actually are for this
Oh,
year.
I'm sorry.
You know
So,
what I'm
yeah, so
saying?
you're saying they're over projecting everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
So
why.
wait, what are we this year?
I was just looking at this, it's 384.
384. This would tell us that 189 for the model. So you think that that's probably the highest in the state? Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I
Yeah.
mean,
But I think, like I said, I think once you look at the kindergarten enrollments, because that was what, in 2020, that was what sort of set off the bells of let's go back to MSBA, and
yeah.
because the kindergarten enrollment was so much lower than we had expected, so it'll be really telling to see what it is in June.
And I always wonder how many people actually move in this town after their kids start school too, right?
It's a huge number.
Yeah, I've heard that in the past.
Although it wasn't that year, though.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's one of,
The percent ratio was large for this time.
compared to others, right?
Compared to others.
That's what I remember hearing.
Good.
But yeah, it's something to look at for sure. I do think, again, just based on actual today, this is probably fairly conservative, meaning like the numbers are higher typically.
Even on the low, it's like.
That's right.
They go a little higher even when they're doing low, which makes sense.
All right. Let's skip over. Actually, let's talk about. Let's go back to the module one. I kind of want to get Christine. Christine, are you with us?
I'm here, I just turned off my video because I don't have great internet.
No problem. As long as we can hear you, that'd be great. I have a question. I'm looking at the right off the website from MSBA, the Module 1 eligibility period deliverables is my printout here. I think you guys have all seen this before. So the second, well, let's start with the first item, the ICC. Christine, do we need to get that on the, I believe we need to get that on the select board agenda at some point to sign. We can't officially sign it until April,
Okay,
but candidly,
that's not a problem.
preferably I'd like to get that on the, whatever think our date,
First week in April?
so our commencement date is 4/1. So whatever the first meeting they have in April, could we get that on, the select board agenda to get signed? And then Michelle, you
Absolutely, we'll put it on there right now.
and then Jeff and Michelle, you guys both will own signatures for that as well?
Yep.
Okay, so that's
So they actually have a meeting on April 1st, on 4/1.
even better. If we can
If
turn
that's
this
the
in-
warrant committee hearing, I'll be there anyway, I assume, so we can do it that night.
Well, candidly, we could do it before that too, and just have it ready
Okay.
to be sent for, April 1.
Just for process, so what you're envisioning happening is we're gonna be doing these forms ahead, and then on April 1, we can start sending them things, but.
That's how I understood it,
Okay,
yes.
but you're not, there's no meeting on April 1st, we just start sending things.
Correct.
Yes, the portal opens that you're
The
allowed to
portal
submit.
opens.
Yeah, so let's back up on the process a little bit, because now with Jeff and Christine both here, we should talk about a little bit about that. I was not involved in the process very much last time at all. And candidly, I think that this committee, and I'm happy to hear disagreements or agreements on this too, should probably be very aware of what's getting submitted. And I think that we should have input into that. But the physical doing of it, last time I believe was handled by Mike LaFrancesca, Jeff, and yourself.
Yes.
So it makes the most sense to me to have that continue. And but yeah, so something like that where it's literally 10 pages, you can't redline it anyways, because you know. So but you have to understand it and make sure you know what you're signing, right? So that's fine. So maybe, but I would like to get. So April 1 comes. I'd love to be able to send that over, as well as whatever else we have done before then, and go from there. So yeah, so Christine, just to go back to that meeting, if they have a meeting in March, they can sign it before that.
Okay, they can sign it on, if you want, they can sign it on March 18th. We can also do it, they have a meeting, on March 4th, so it's the 4th and the 18th in March.
You know, trim anything if they sign it before April 1.
Doesn't do anything.
Why don't you do that? There's no sense having a foot fault on it. Just do it April 1.
That's fine. All right, April 1. Please.
We're putting it on April 1?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay.
All right, we talked about the school, the next part of the module is the school building committee. And Christine, we missed you last time, because I have some questions for you.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is, so we need to fill out, and give to the MSBA project coordinator, names, titles, all that stuff's easy enough to do. But we have some people, we have some members of the school building committee required by MSBA that currently don't sit in this committee. Okay? So,
Okay.
is it, Christine, are you MCPPO certified?
I am.
Okay.
Good for you.
According to the MSBA, so I'm just going to run down these numbers. So, one of the designations is a local chief executive officer. Needs to be part of the committee. So my question to you, Christine, is: can we start nominating people to be on this committee? Per our town bylaws, they wouldn't have voting rights, but they could still be non-voting members, and basically grow this committee so that we could fill out this requirement.
Yes, I think the bylaw allows the select board to appoint anybody necessary if we are back in the MSBA process.
Okay.
Can I just ask, who does that mean? What does that term mean?
Local
In-
chief executive officer,
Yeah, does that mean select board? What
a
is it?
member of the select board.
I mean,
Member of the
the-
select board,
So the chief executive officer of the town is the chair of the select board.
chair of the select board, okay.
Yep.
So it'll change yearly then?
So is that Pete Peterson this year?
It's Eileen right now.
It is Eileen currently, and then the chairmanship will change after the election.
Right. And that- discuss all-
Now, that's just for clarification, they can decide amongst themselves, while Eileen currently is the chief executive officer and signs on their behalf, they can decide amongst themselves who they would like to designate for that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the chair.
Mhm.
They can designate somebody else on the select board, so one of the three of them.
Oh, they can, okay, so if one, like if Eileen started, they could decide she could stay, or she could not start, and they could pick someone else, and
That's right, as long as
they
they,
need to have that discussion.
That's
We're
right.
gonna give them time to have
Yeah.
that discussion, so that we're ready, we send the form in.
yeah, so these people change, right? It's a long process. And you just need to let the MSBA know, it's written in their rules, I think it's 20 days or 30 days after
I think it's 20
somebody
days.
changes, you just need to let them know in writing, probably via an email if you're phone.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But to start, I'd like it to be accurate. You know, just at least to start. All right, so again, another agenda item, Christine, and you and I could talk offline about this, but the select board will want to have a discussion about who's going to join this committee, and then they'll probably have to vote on that at one of their meetings as well.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yep, that's not, we can do that.
All right, the next designation is administrator or manager. Christine, you fit that bill again. School committee member, we have 2 of those, so we're good. Superintendent, Jeff is here. Local official responsible for building maintenance, that'd be Rob Quinn, correct?
That is correct, he is the director of facilities.
So again, we would need Rob to be nominated by the select board in a public meeting to join our group as well.
Correct.
Representative of office authorized by law to construct school buildings, we have Tony for that. School principal, we have Steve. Member knowledgeable in educational mission and function of facility. I had Mike LaFrancesca penciled in for that. I suppose Jeff and Steve also fit that bill. So,
Can one person fill in more than one slot? Which I think is fine, I'm just asking a question.
it doesn't say you can't, so the answer is yes to that. I believe we had that last time, we had a bunch of people there. Alright, so. Local budget official, a member of the local finance committee. Members of community with architecture, engineer, or construction experience. There's a bunch of us, John, myself. And then other would be the rest of us.
So do you need to list everybody?
Yeah.
You have to list
You
everybody.
need to list them,
Okay.
addresses, emails, phone numbers,
Okay.
and whether you're a voting member or not. It's actually pretty simple to do. It's just, I wanted to make sure we all had the discussion here. So,
So based on that, we're adding one person?
based on this, we're adding 2.
Oh,
One of
okay,
the select
right,
board members
and Rob.
and Rob.
Okay.
Now, do we need to vote on that, Christine? No, right?
No, it's gonna be the select board that does.
Bylaw states that there's 3 appointing authorities, and just the select board during the process has the authority to appoint people as needed for this exact situation, that if something on the MSBA requires us to have more people.
Okay.
So do we need to add that to their agenda?
Yeah, so that, that needs to go to their agenda too, Christine, please.
So, do you wanna do all of that on April 1st, or do you wanna do that the meeting before in March?
So Christine, do they do the, process whereby you discuss it at one and vote the next time? Or-
No, I think something on this, they would vote it immediately.
Okay,
It's a requirement, so I don't think it's going to need much discussion.
then I would say March, just to make sure it's done and there isn't anything we have to redo.
I
If we're
think-
really trying to get everything in the beginning of April.
Yeah, I mean, if we can send it in. So March, please?
think-
Do you need me to send
Yeah,
you
let's
this, do you need me
plan-
to send you this form, Christine?
No. No, I have that.
Okay.
All right, let's plan on doing everything on March 18th.
Great.
Including the signing of the ICC?
I think we should do everything that night.
Yeah, do it all once. Do you want some number of us from
Yeah, I
the
was just thinking the
SBC to
same
be
thing.
there?
I'm happy to represent it, but I'm sure they always like to see you, so, if anybody wants to attend, that's fine as well.
Okay.
Now, while you've got that document here, is it information easily available, like our addresses and our phone numbers? Or do you wanna pass that document around while you've got some of us here, so people aren't scrambling looking for that information?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
We can just email, right?
Why don't we just,
I have extra copies.
Well, yeah, or an email, and we just fill it
I
in
would
and
say
send it back.
let's all, Jeff, can we inundate you or Mike's inbox?
Probably not mine.
That's what I was
Isn't-
thinking.
isn't it
Like, don't
the
email me.
SBC
Where do you have to
email?
go to, who's not here?
Andrea Moores would be a great one to go, so amoores@email.medfield.net.
Actually, you know what? Do you mind just sending
I'll
us an
send it to
email?
you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And are we using our SBC emails or?
I think so.
Okay.
That way, all the correspondence is public information. It makes it easier.
Christine, did you say March 16th?
18th.
18th, okay.
March 18th.
Okay. All right, look at that. 1, 2. All right, the educational profile questionnaire. So we talked about this last time. I'll give you a quickly overview of the district's current and proposed educational program for its current school facilities and how the district envisions the priority SOI school because of a potential building project in partnership with the MSBA. In summary, the EPQ requests the following information: confirmation of all school district facilities, the priority statement of interest school room types and how they are currently utilized, what the district proposes to study during feasibility phase, if the priority it's not a high, okay, so it's those 3 items. So Jeff, I know that Mike and yourself and Steve probably had some input on this last time. Can we leave this to you? Is anyone interested in like helping with that or doing it? I'm not.
Does it make sense for us to do it and then bring it to this committee to take a
Would
look
you
at?
like to do that?
Yeah, how much has changed since last time?
Not a lot, but some things have changed,
Okay.
not a ton. But if we put it together, we can bring it to the committee, you guys take a look at it, give
Yeah.
your blessings and stuff.
Thank you very much.
Even if it's like long, which I don't think it is actually, but if it is, like when we go through some of this stuff, like I know, yeah, we'll just review it.
Yeah.
Here are the highlights. That'd be great. Okay. The next one is online projection. We talked about that. Maintenance and capital planning. Christine, I'll probably need some help from you on this in conjunction with Jeff and his group, as well as Rob Quinn. So district level information about maintenance and capital planning practices. Is the highlight of that. So maybe we can go off, do the same thing and look at that offline, Jeff, and bring that back to committee.
And that's something a lot of the school will have to provide anyway.
I don't know any of the answers, yeah.
Mike will have that data.
Yeah, when I spoke to him, it sounded like he had most of it like at the tip of his tongue, but what I'd like to do is just look at it as a group. This is what we're submitting.
Yeah, we can look at everything, before we submit everything, we'll bring it to the committee, have a look at it, and then we can submit it.
Okay, good.
We have plenty of time, so.
All right, let's talk about the vote, Christine. Okay, so I wrote this down. We have $1 million currently. That's the number I had in my head, at least. Christine, I think you told me that.
Hold on, I just shared, Michelle, do you have that? Can you?
I've got it in front of me right now.
Oh, we have 155
Yeah.
right now?
No,
Well,
that's
I'm
what we're
pulling mine
asking
up
for.
right now.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who voted on that? We need to talk to the warrant committee. I think we're gonna need more. All right, let's talk about.
So the 2020.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we appropriate, in 2022, we appropriated 250,000. In 2023, we appropriated 250,000. Last year in 2024, we appropriated 650,000, and we are proposing 400,000 this year, which brings us to 1.5. We've reviewed all of the information that the MSBA sent regarding other schools and what they have put in for their feasibility study, and they're all in the 1.5 ballpark.
That's the number we were at, I mean, recently, this year.
Why did I have it in my head that Carly had sent us a couple that were much
She
more
did.
than that?
She did.
Yeah, she did. I followed up with
So
that.
they were, I'm sorry. Westford was an outlier at 2.5. I had a conversation with the town manager in Westford. They did not know what they needed when they originally voted that at 2.5, and they're going back to town meeting to drop it to 1.5.
And that's what I talked to the superintendent, it was the same thing.
How about anybody talk to South Hadley?
Yes, I did.
And?
Closer to 1.5 million. They're actually sending me all their documents, they still haven't, I talked to them earlier in the week, they're sending me all their docs. And I also talked to Rentham, Rentham was 1.1, but they're gonna have to allocate another 3 million to make it 1.4.
300,000, you mean? Yeah.
And I said 700,000, excuse me,
Okay.
so it's gonna be 1.4.
Was there any determination of what could be used from the last one? Has that been worked out yet? Did you figure it out? Hadn't heard anything.
No. So that's a good point. Let's assume that we get approved in May for 1.55 million total. We've spent a little bit of that money so far, maybe $20,000. I'm guessing here. My gut tells me that there's a fair amount of information from the last one that can be reused. It is recent, right? So it's not 10 years old. If I'm a OPM and I'm not sure that I want to use anybody else's work, so I'd probably double check it all. So I would rather shoot higher than lower, but I think it's a good point. Teresa, go ahead.
Yeah, similar to that question. That's what I was thinking as well, but I think we should go higher, but the funds, if we, let's say, we've allocated 1.5, but we end up only spending 1.2, that extra 300 just sits in the kitty, or does it have to get reallocated back if we come in lower?
If you come in lower at a future town meeting, that money would have to be reallocated back to something else.
Such as the building of the actual school. Right, I hope.
Or put it in.
I would assume you would want to put it back into the tax mitigation fund.
But I checked with Steve
Okay.
Callahan, who checked with Christine, and I was hoping we could just do a single warrant article that would say, we'll appropriate 400,000, and if anything's left over, it'll go into the escrow account.
Mm-hmm.
but Christine said.
Yeah,
no,
it
you need a
can't be done
separate
that way,
vote.
no.
You need a separate vote. So the money will be there and hopefully it will be at a future town meeting spent on this project, but we just can't do it all in one step. It's too bad.
Okay. All right, based on those conversations, I'm comfortable with 1.5. The market's also tightening up pretty good and generally.
I know I mentioned before, but MSBA did encourage us to go through and put those three buckets, things we can definitely use, things we can't use, and things we can use with adjustments. If we can do that process, and that gives us a better negotiation when we hire architect OPM and say, we've already done this, we don't need this. So we don't have to spend all that money again. I think if we can go through that process and decide what it is, then we should be able to save money on the entire feasibility study in theory.
Jeff, does MSBA need to prove that?
No, they told us to do it.
Oh.
Yeah, they said that's the issue, we should be doing that.
And would that happen after you hire the firm? Then you sit and say, now we want you to.
No, during the process of hiring them, as a
During-
negotiation of the price.
As a negotiation of
Yes.
price, okay. So we have time to do that work.
We do.
Yeah.
What were the buckets, Jeff? What we can use, what we
What we
can't
can
use?
use, what we can't use, and what we can use with adjustments or updates.
Yeah, it's a great negotiating tool. That kind of answers our question there too. So if we have 1.5 appropriated, and we narrow it down to 2 OPMs or whatever, and we say, okay, here's the deal. We've gone through this document that we did in 2017 at this point, 18. Somewhere around there. We have the dates. Doesn't matter. We can use this. This will all have to get redone. This is gonna have to get updated. Let's what can we do? What can we do with the
Let's
time?
go through 2020.
Yeah, I forget. Okay,
They will look at those documents before they do, because they're all online.
that's a good point.
In fact, I know some of them already looked at those documents.
Well, that's good. That means people are interested, and that's kind of the buzz too, because what I was hearing a year ago is that we weren't an attractive town because we had a failed vote, but now also I'm hearing that, and you can speak to it better than I can. It's tighter out there, and architectural engineering firms, OPMs, contractors like myself are looking for work. So the market's certainly changed on the construction side, in the town's favor currently.
MSBA data shows that all the estimates have been coming in under.
There you go. Yeah, that's why.
When do we start this 3-bucket process and who does it?
It's a good question.
Do we have because we need to have that done before we're gonna hire the OPM so that we can have the negotiation aspect of it to use.
So we need the warrant article to pass first, so we at least have the 1.5 just in case we can't use any of it. So,
So nothing we've gotta start in a month or two.
well, we can start it whenever we want. Say it again, Bill?
Don't you? Well, we can go through the process, but the actual, getting an RFI out is,
No, I'm just thinking of the work of going through the
Yeah.
data we've got already and do the buckets. Just seems like that could be a little bit of tedious going through line after line after line and might take a little time.
So-
I actually suggest to do that now.
Okay. All right, that's what I was thinking. It sounds like it's a bit of work.
Yeah, I would say that it's gonna take months to do that if we break it up. So here's the deal, the whole module 1 has to end, and then the next step is to kind of hire that OPM, right? So it needs to happen right before, we need to have that information before module 2 starts.
And our first meeting is at the end of June, right? To see if modular 1, we did a good job or we need more time, so.
That's
Right, the MSBA availability, someone said the meeting would be.
Bill gave us that information last time. The June 25th was the MSBA board meeting we said we should shoot for, right?
Yeah, so.
Which I think is a great idea. it doesn't mean that we're gonna be on the agenda that day either,
No,
right?
no,
You know what I mean?
right.
They can say, whoa,
But I'm
slow
just
down.
looking at the
Thanks for all the
earliest.
information.
Yeah, if all the ducks went nicely in a row, that would be the earliest.
So that's a good point. Should we just endeavor to have it done by July 1? I think we should.
And is that a full committee thing or a small committee of people who have
Take it.
expertise in that?
Get 2 people in a room to mark it up and then send it out for review.
I think we probably should do something like that and then break it up into sections. Like, I'm okay if someone says, hey, look it, I don't wanna, I'm good, like, I don't have time for that. But if there's 7 or 8 of us that say, happy to help there, then maybe a couple of us can dig into it and break it up into groups of, maybe not 7 or 8 groups, but like, you know, Bill and I will work together, we'll do this 100 pages. You guys work together, you do this 100 pages, you know what I mean, something like that.
I mean, I haven't been through it, right, Mike? It's not, like, I think it's gonna be less complicated than we think, because you're gonna, all the wheelock stuff gets thrown out. Like, all the, like, you know, the subjective stuff will be like the testing, and like, you know, is there any time dated stuff around testing or soils and stuff like that we think we need to redo?
Mm-hmm.
But then,
Or
everything
update.
that's kinda like factual documentation, you're gonna say it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then the architectural plans for the Dale Street, like those probably.
They are what they are.
Yeah, they're probably, you can keep them, throw them out, you're gonna evaluate and start new anyway. So I don't know, I just remember going through the couple hundred pages and it's like there's a lot and then you start to actually get through it and it's like, it's actually not, it's just like a lot of.
And a lot of it's kind of like historical data, right? Why don't we spend our next meeting doing that, or at least trying to break it up? And then we can go from there, like, to say who's gonna do what. I think
I'm happy to take a cut at it too.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk offline so we can prep for that meeting, actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That way we can present it in a fashion that we don't have to actually scroll through 800 pages, but we can, it's broken down pretty good with the table of contents and things like that. So why don't we make that like a high point of our, we'll talk about, she said the next one is when, so it's March. We'll make sure that Christine has the information for the select board, but why don't we make that the majority of our next meeting? And then Jeff, maybe the meeting after, do you think that'll be enough time for that, the 2 items here, the EPQ, and the MCP?
The April meeting?
April? Yeah. Okay. Alright.
When's our next meeting?
We don't have it scheduled yet. We'll talk about that next. April, EPQ, So, again, we can't finish through module 1 at a minimum till after we get the funds secured after May. So we have some time. So if we do March meeting, feasibility study work, kind of break it up. I'm sure we'll discuss it more in the subsequent meetings. April will kind of focus on, and I don't think a lot of it, we'll do maybe a formal, we'll go through the actual website and we can talk about the responses that we filled in for the EPQ and the MCP. As well as, at that point, we could probably do the enrollment projection tool as well, because we could fill that stuff in. Okay, and then will we get a vote and keep moving?
Who asked to get on that June agenda? Is that Carly, our new connection person, or us, or how does that work?
Yeah, really good question. Jeff, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'd be Carly, maybe she'd be liaison. I mean, we can submit all we want, but we also have to wait for them to go through everything and approve it and all that, so we may not be ready for the June one based on their timeline, but she would be the person we could talk to about that.
Does she advocate for us? Does she like
I
look
think
at
so.
what we have in there and
Mhm.
then say to the board, look, they've got everything, would you you know, I'm just wondering how that little process goes.
My,
That's all last time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
my, this is just a total gut, it'd be hard, I would be very surprised if we were on that June meeting agenda. I say that because they wouldn't even let us, they didn't even open it up for us yet until April, right? And they give you 270 days to complete the whole thing. So if we did it in 30, which would be awesome, or whatever, like 45 days, right?
May not help.
You know, we're overachievers, look at us. They're like, great, we're not gonna make you wait 270, but it's certainly not gonna be just, 3 months.
She did say on the call though that they review things as it comes in.
Yep.
So
Oh,
even
they
though
do.
there's high schools, who are gonna get access to the portal before us, they would still be in their 270 days if we have everything ready to go on April 1st, right? So
Yeah.
she did say that.
And do they have a once a month meeting to handle this kind of thing? No, they don't. 2 months. So if you don't make June, we're looking at August.
Just get the, on the website, there's the scheduled board dates is on there.
Oh, I was just looking at it, sorry.
All right,
So August 22nd is the next one,
Okay.
and then October and December.
All right, so we covered, Karen, I'll let you in the subcommittee update go in a second. Just while it's on fresh in my head. Any other topics you guys want to discuss, like in these meetings? Just, I generally take notes at these meetings to create the agenda for the next one, right? So, and if something comes up in the meantime, you guys all have my cell, call me, and I'll get it on the next agenda. Just as an FYI.
We will have to make sure, once the language is verified in the upcoming warrant, we're gonna have to, vote to sponsor or support the, warrant article, right? Yes, no, yes?
I don't know.
I think we do.
Talking to Mark.
The warrant committee will vote to make an article, and then certainly members of this committee can appear and speak in support of it at town meeting.
So at
I
the
don't
school
think we
committee,
need-
usually at our meetings,
I
if
don't
we
know
have
that we need to formally vote, but
an
if we want
article
to, I
review.
don't think there's any harm.
School committee always
school
votes.
committee votes if we have an article that we're sponsoring.
Christine, are you looking to talk?
Yes, so I know that the SBC the last 2 years has voted to support the warrant article, so Michelle is correct in our process. We should probably vote and keep it the same way.
So that would just be an upcoming agenda
I,
item.
When do you
yeah,
want
I will give you a quick heads up. It's the exact same language as last year if anybody wants to take a quick look at it.
Although we are
That
already-
being said, we did send the language to MSBA and I'm waiting to hear back from them if there's any changes that they would like.
What Christine just said there, the project coordinator, Carly, we had told her we had some funds already set up for feasibility study over the last 2 years. She asked for the language in the warrant article to be sent to her. They must review them to make sure that they meet their standards or whatever it is. So if we get that back approved before the next meeting, I'll put it on the agenda just to vote for it. And if not, we'll just do it in April. That fair? All right. Let's talk, Meredith has a hard time on Wednesdays, at least it was in the short term. Is March 5th still a good time for everybody, and then April 2nd? And then May 7th, I guess? Again, the first Wednesday of each month. I know having a consistent meeting was easier for the town and film crew and Christine, so, and they booked the rooms, all that good stuff.
Looks good to me.
So 3-5, 4-2, and 5-7. When's town meeting?
The
5th?
So we should also,
It's Cinco de Mayo?
make,
It is.
we should also have a meeting that night in case we have to do anything last minute, so that we're on, we're able to meet. That's what, a lot of the boards do.
On the 5th?
Yeah, you make it
you
for before
just,
town
just
meeting.
publish
Like
it, and if something comes
5:30
up,
in
we
the
can get
afternoon,
together and
Yeah.
talk
just in
beforehand.
case.
Just in
You
case
don't have to
something,
have it,
we
it's
have
on
that,
display, basically.
we have to make a vote and change something
She's
or
right,
change
she
the
should do that.
wording, just sort of a precaution thing.
Okay. So we should do,
I think we did it last year, right? Cause we were there with the handouts and that. in the
I don't
library.
think we didn't meet. We might have had him, I don't know.
I think it was posted,
Be posted as a meeting?
yeah.
Christine, did that, I'll send you an email on it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll have Brittany post it tomorrow in advance of town meeting. It'll just be posted just in case.
Yeah,
If
that's
you don't have the meeting, great, but you're covered either way.
I
So
also
we'll
don't
just
want
post
people
it for,
shouting
we usually
out,
post
just
it
in
for
case.
45 minutes to an hour before town meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then the last thing on the agenda was subcommittee updates.
Yes, we are just, moving along with the things we've been doing, we have an update on the town website, the Facebook page, and the constant contact, so we'll write that, put it all together and do a little video. If you didn't see the video last time, you can see it, because I actually think Teresa and Bill did a fabulous job of explaining sort of the beginning steps of MSBA. And actually put a lot of feedback about that, so that's great. I will just say this, because we were just thinking of town meeting. Last year, we had a handout, but we weren't allowed to give it out
Yeah.
before town meeting, because we weren't on the warrant thing, but we are now, because we have this item of needing money. So if, we could actually have a handout on the table when people come in to take this year.
Mike's not gonna allow that this year, I talked to him earlier today.
Oh, I thought because we're on it, we can.
He said he's not gonna allow any handouts. I could be wrong there, but I did talk to him earlier today, he said he wasn't gonna allow any handouts.
From anybody or from us?
It sounded like from anybody.
Oh, okay, well, then we won't write it.
I'm not sure.
Let me chat with him about that, that
Okay.
feels odd. I mean, speech is allowed at town meeting, and speech can be oral or written. And I don't think, I'm not trying to pick a fight here, but I don't think you can just say, no speech. Or you can only go to a microphone, you can't do anything written. Let me chat with Mike and see if I can change his mind about that.
Okay, well, if we can, we just thought that's something that we could do and then bring back to everybody to look at.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, so that was sort of a,
And just generally speaking, you're thinking quick explanation of where we're at. We're in the module 1. Why we're asking for money.
Yeah,
What
it'd
it
be
means. That's
like
it.
a one-pager, brief update.
Yep.
We have this on, we're asking because when we get to step 2, we need this money and this is what we do in step 2.
Where's the money? So if I'm a resident who hasn't been paying attention,
I'd say where the money's been for the
where
last
what
2 years.
about the last 3 years of money that I've approved already?
Yes.
Where did that go? It's still here. This is just the additional to finish up the funds.
Exactly.
Okay.
Is this a-
Very, very simply written, just very
Very
clear,
factual.
very
How
factual.
much money we spent to date, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's round figures, we hired future thing for an enrollment projection, like something like that.
Yeah, and the idea was to put it on the table so we could take it on the way.
I think it's a great idea if you allow it.
And if it's
Oh.
a no, it's a no, and we can make something and post it in places.
Well, I was thinking maybe, what if we made it and put it on the web, put it on,
I can attach it to the website. the
yeah, what if we
Facebook
did something
page,
anyways?
in constant contact, like,
Just to like,
yeah.
hey, this will be on the warrant, like this is what it's for. Just a little bit more color behind it, I think is, I'd wanna know where the money's going.
Could
Why-
we add as well, like, I guess a little bit more about, I think this is a great opportunity to, kind of re-educate what the MSBA is and isn't and why this is important for this project in particular. I think something in that space as well could be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually that was on, one of our things prior, like what is MSBA?
Yeah, we had, but not everybody's been following along, but we have many times explained, in fact, Jeff had a great handout that we used to pass out, what is the MSBA and how it relates, and we, even in constant contact, we've got a little, check this link, this is what MSBA,
Mhm.
so we're gonna keep doing that. But always the more information, the better, I think, in the big picture.
You said the same, Chris?
No, I just have a clarifying question
Sure.
in terms of, what exactly the target is to be submitted by April 1. Exactly
April
which
1 is when the
document.
portal opens.
Okay, right.
The reality is that we can't finish module 1 until, best case scenario, we have the funds approved at town meeting. So really, we can't be done with module 1. Again, pie in the sky, best case, May 6th. But this is just my opinion now. I would like everything that we can submit the first week of April to be submitted. So like there's 7 parts of that module 1, right? The signed document, the school building committee members and like all of us, the maintenance, the educational profile, the whatever else is there. Everything really except for the last 2 pieces, which would be the vote and the money that's appropriated for it. And then the last piece is a breakdown of like costs, and that can be done. Actually, that might even be able to be done ahead of time as well. But just pretty much everything.
The reason I asked is that when you're gonna be adding 2 more people to the committee, and do you want them to have a seat at the table to be part of any of the decision making for anything before it gets submitted?
It's a really good question. Christine, would the people that the select board adds to the committee, I kind of got the feeling that our warrant said that they would not be voting members. Is that fair?
Yes.
The bylaw, not the warrant,
bylaw
I'm sorry,
says
yes.
that, yeah.
Just don't think they're gonna have a voice.
Well, yeah, good point. I think they're only gonna miss next meeting. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna be kind of appointed in March. So I don't think we're not gonna have anything by then anyways. So that's fair. But certainly something, I mean, we'll tell them, hey, you should look at this stuff. Should be good.
I do think, I mean, I know I said this, I do think that if you can wait on the enrollment until you can see actual numbers, I think it'll help the public case a lot, you know.
Yeah, I know. If we're guessing high anyways, right? Which we just looked at, like high projections, and I don't want to wait until we know until June, you know what I mean?
Right, but what I worry about is that MSBA has a tendency to come in high anyway, then you're kind of feeding it, you know what I mean? It's a little bit like a negotiation game in terms of.
I think it's a
numbers.
negotiation. I agree with that. But I think we're better prepared to have that negotiation now.
We can estimate kindergarten earlier than June. The past couple of years I've been using census data to try to estimate our kindergarten for the purpose of like hiring teachers,
Yep.
projecting, and it's been really accurate. So we can get that in like April. So that might be a good compromise. Like it'll get us there, but it'll get us there earlier.
Okay.
So
Can,
I can look at that.
I was gonna say, can we
Yeah.
ask you to actually do that
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
bring
can
it
do
to
it.
the meeting?
Yeah, it's easy to do. It
Yes,
takes
okay,
5 minutes.
that'd be great.
Um,
Sorry, was the subcommittee, were you
Yeah.
still giving an update?
yeah, I think she was. Sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, so, I mean, we're kind of just doing the same kind of things, nothing very different, and unless somebody looks at anything we've done and wants us to do it a little different. We're just continuing on at the moment with as much education as we can in those 3 manners.
Mm-hmm.
And did you bring some senior center, did you do printouts?
I've done an email.
An email.
I think where we're gonna lean on you really is town meeting, right before town meeting. You know what I mean? I think that's gonna be important just to make sure everyone knows. You know, once the warrant gets mailed and people see that we're asking for $400,000 more,
Right,
you know, everyone's ears perk up a little bit. Like, what's this for?
right. Right, so then we can discuss how to, you can get a bigger audience before town meeting. We've already put town meeting in those places, so people are aware of it and marking it, and that we're gonna have a warrant on it, an article on it, but, we can also think of how to broaden a little bit, just for town meeting.
I know we talked about it 2 meetings ago, but, it was very high level around like the neighborhood captain concept, so.
We discussed that, at 2 meetings ago, and we were thinking it's probably not good to start it until, the second part, because we're a little afraid we burn out people, but we thought we would start at the communication subcommittee level, thinking about how you would get groups going and find captains, and also talk about, we were thinking about whether we thought, just to keep things clear factually, if maybe each of us would need to be connected to a captain or 2 in town, so that somebody was directly connecting with these group leaders and making sure that information is as factual as it can be. It's on our agenda tonight to talk about.
Yeah, I wonder if it makes sense even just to throw out a feeler in like an upcoming constant contact of like putting that onus on people to help them get involved to be in this space. I wonder if it would even, you know what I mean? Like, 'cause right now I feel like it's, the communication is a little bit more like reliant on we send it and you read it and then that's it, right? Where if the opposite, where if we throw out a little feeler, like we're gonna be looking for this in the future and seeing what kind of response we get, because we could even start to play around a little with that from the town meeting standpoint. Like, this is coming up and this is very important and we support this and we want you to support this, and can you help us get some people there to support this? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, so we get, that is on our agenda tonight to start, how do we get this group going, so let's.
Yeah. I mean, just start seeing who's bubbling up, because I think, I'm assuming that a lot of people hear from other people, like, what can I do, how can I get involved, where are you guys at, right? Like, you get kind of those questions from people, and I think this is a way to start helping them be a little bit more a part of the process earlier now, and then you can flesh out how it's gonna work, but you have some of those people in place to help.
Yeah, so. So, here we are, unless anybody has anything else to add.
Good.
I mean, I think Michelle, to that point, it's the question is, if you put through the effort at this point to hold like an MSBA process, like orientation, like let us, our info session, here's what you should expect, here's the timelines, here are the different modules, like just explain it out. It's a bunch of work, the question, does anybody show up to actually like.
So I would lead on an OPM for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, the question is like, what can you do now versus like, what you do once the engine gets going a little bit.
No, I think that what you can do right now is, would you like to be involved further?
Yeah.
And you're actively saying, I wanna be involved. And then the ask would be right now, hey, we have this article at town meeting that's actually really crucial to us continuing forward. Can you come? Can you support it? Can you bring some friends? Right? Like, I think it's very like low level in that space, but you'll start to see, are people reading? Are they engaging? Are they coming back to us? Right? Like, and that gives us a little, it's just a feeler in that space, right? And then you can go to that.
Yeah, when we get to that next step, where we actually
Yeah.
need some help, we reach out to them first.
Right.
Right, yeah, and just start establishing.
In the first go around a few years back, were people interested in the MSBA process? Was that asked a lot?
Not
I
really.
don't think so.
And honestly, with the few exception of maybe a half a dozen, 10 people per se, like we didn't even have lots of attendance at our meetings throughout until towards the end.
That's what took.
Yeah. But I mean, it was.
I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I
Bad
think it's
thing.
actually a bad thing. I'd like
Yeah, I think
1,000
it's a
people
bad
to be
thing,
at
but
these
that's
things.
what-
I mean, they're
I
kind of
don't-
boring for them, but if you're not really into it. But yeah, because for us, what we've committed to do is to listen and to like,
Sure.
you know what I mean. And if you only have like a couple people showing up and it's just not as helpful. I think we're going about it the right way here. I think once module 2 comes along and we, you know, get some people to really help us push information and then receive it back. We just need to be cognizant of listening to it, making sure that people get heard, whether we agree or not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the first step is getting people to go to town meeting and support this.
Yeah, I will tell you. Last year when we asked for $650, last year was the number.
Yeah.
It was an overwhelming, like, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was really, and I was a little nervous about it because we didn't really have anything concrete in front of us yet. Like, we weren't into the program yet. We were kind of just hoping, you know, playing the long game.
No issues.
No, I mean, why? Like one
Yeah.
or two people
Yeah.
might have asked, you know, why are we giving money? We don't, you know.
And then a previous SBC member stood up and said we should be asking for more.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not enough money.
that's what he said. Which will be good when we go ask this year, because now it actually matches, I think, the amount that he quoted last year, right?
Exactly.
He said we're after the so.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess the question is, I'm assuming that's enough, 125? There's nothing else other
Yeah, I
than
mean,
this-
Christine and Jeff, I'll lean on you guys for that, for Tony's
There's nothing
question
else
there.
other than the study that we'll need? Doesn't sound like it, but I just wanna.
I mean,
Next step.
go ahead. We're comfortable
The
with
feasibility study would be your next step in terms of funding, so.
Right, there's nothing else.
I don't think you're gonna need additional money beyond that. We definitely didn't appropriate anything additional last time.
The only thing that we might need money for is if, like, we start going down the road and we talked about hiring like an outside,
Yeah.
yeah. But that,
That's down the
and I also think that's smaller percentages. If you have 1.5 million, and we're able to use some of the old feasibility studies, the number may come down a little bit,
Right.
so then you have a little slush there, so. All right, good meeting. We'll see you guys the 5th of March. Do I hear, motion to close?
Second?
I'll give it a Bob. Teresa, we'll start with you this time.
Yes.
Leo?
Leo Brem, yes.
Peter Michelson, yes.
John Sandy, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yes.
Bob Meany, yes?
Tony Papansonis, yes.
Robert Worth, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Mike Weber, yes.
Christine, are you gonna, stay on for the next part?
Do you have a life?
Okay. Oh, I hate Zoom.